Hey guys, sorry I'm late. It's after 9 o'clock. Sorry about that. Oh dear. Okay. Alright, so news. The news is that yes, the rods are available tomorrow. I'm going to go pick them up. And we've got 5 people here. Brandon, James, Dennis. I'm sorry, I got to bring you guys up on the other phone here. I don't know what's like. So the tools are coming tomorrow. I have to go pick them up tomorrow. So I will be packing them tomorrow afternoon probably. But I wanted to show you guys what I'm doing. Brandon's here, James, Dennis, Custom Cutter. Custom Cutter, I'm not sure that you missed a whole lot. But tonight, I do have something at least sort of interesting for you guys. So tools, I'll be packing them up tomorrow. I don't actually have a good inventory count, so I don't know how many I actually have and how many I have left and all that other stuff. So an easy way to eliminate the squish lip. Well, yeah, there is that. Just wondering if I happen to have... Well, there's that. I like to put random parts and pieces on here while I'm looking for random parts and pieces. Again, this was a carcass that I had. Actually, while I'm at it, before I show you guys what I did today, bring this back out. Before I show you guys what I did today, we got a little grinding on here to do. So let's get that out of the way. It's these spots right here that end up binding. Barry Reynolds. Tim's here. Edwin made it finally. Brandon, does anyone know max compression for a GX35? No. Not my area of expertise, buddy. So I gotta take some out here. Because I'm dropping the head, remember? So the intake gets dropped as well. How much? And it's a guess. Well, this is a dental drill, so yeah. The other thing you need to relieve is over here for the carburetor, but we can get to that later. Okay. So right now we're just test fitting things, and I got this. Put this there for the moment. Put this to the side. So here's what I did. So when I put this on the Bridgeport, I indicate this way. So this way is basically, I indicate to the top surface. So I'm assuming, the assumption of that is that the top surface and the bottom surface are indeed parallel. That's kind of the assumption. So I wrote minus 37. I actually cut 37 off of here. But I cut 40 off here. We'll get to that in a minute. So it turns out both, Barry. Both. Now, I'll bet James's wife is beating him off with a stick. So yeah, so I cut this on the Bridgeport, and so I cut it down. I also made a little indent here for the impulse, and I cut down these pieces because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here later and grind the heck out of this. Anything that's sharp in here, I'm going to grind. It'll be gone. So, and then I'm going to fill it in with JB Weld to make these ramps nice and smooth. So there's a bunch of stuff that I'm going to do to this. You know, do you have to do it? No. Am I going to do it? Oh, yeah. Let me just go wash this really quick because this is all. So cutting this on the Bridgeport is not exactly ideal, but one thing it does allow me to do is I don't necessarily need to impede the seal here. So I just run this is just freehand on the Bridgeport, but let's see here, intake. Aha, it binds a little bit. Oh, click. It sits. The binding is because of this here. Just a little bit. So I'm going to grind on this more, obviously, but right now I just want to test fit it for squish and see how we're doing. So, the other thing, you know, I do need to chamfer the inner part of this just a little bit, a little too sharp. Yeah, it looks good. Okay. So that goes like that. So yeah, so I just indicate this on the Bridgeport, and but in this case what I did was, instead of indicating this surface, what I did was I indicated a piston. So I put a piston in the bore and then indicated off the top of that. So kind of assuming that the piston is flat. The ideal way is to indicate off the bore itself, and difficult to do on the Bridgeport. So, but I wasn't going to trust this setup necessarily. I wanted to trust the piston more than anything. Anywho, then what I did, got a pop-up, 40 thousandths. There you go. It's not perfect, but it'll work. Yeah, so this is with a gasket. At least theoretically, it will be with a gasket. So let's see if we can get this together. As a test fit. Believe it or not, Edwin, I know what you're talking about. I do. You're like, woohoo! Got a gas line done. Sweet. Yeah, I was trying to figure it so I would run a gasket. Again, this is just a test fit. Assuming this is good, then the next thing to do is actually get port timing, port the head, and then make sure this fits to the head. And then I can start putting pieces here. Why use mandrel? Doesn't that increase squish? Checked web, no answer. Why use mandrel? What are you referring to as a mandrel, Paul? Why use the pop-up? The pop-up does increase squish, but at least temporarily until you account for it somehow. So yeah, removing material here increases squish until you account for it. So you can account for it. You can then decrease squish by machining some off of here or off the base of the head. Oh, why use the mandrel? Because I was trying to flatten the squish band. In there, sometimes there's a lip. And so what happens is the whole band ends up not being flat. You want to flatten the band. That way it's even. And yes, this is plastic housing. I just don't like having a lip up there on the squish band. I want the squish band flat. And the wider the band, the more compression you're going to have because the smaller the combustion chamber will be. Oh, got my gasket. Might come close to having a head slapper if you don't have a gasket. So, theoretically, if I did all my machining right... If I did all the numbers in the machining right, the squish should be whatever this gasket is, which is 21 thousandths. Theoretically. I don't know. 9.6 millimeters. Or well, the overall band, the width of the band is 9.6 millimeters roughly. I just remember that because that's roughly where I measured. And I'm not even sure the measurement's correct, Ken, so don't quote me on that. Ken, the truth is, all I did was to measure the width of the band was I used a tool bit that happened to be sitting next to the lathe that was approximately the width of the band. Measured that, and now you have a good idea of where you're at. So again, clearance issues. The head is not hitting the flywheel, so that's good. It's not a head slapper. I can feel it's not a head slapper. Now this is heavy gauge solder, so if it's too thin here, then about 23 thousandths there. Let's get the other solder. This is just regular, well, this is actually like the nice stuff. This is 4% like that, but you don't have to use that. This is just 30 thousandths thick solder, and then the other stuff is actually old-fashioned lead. Which is 60 thousandths. That's 20 thousandths. Ken, I don't think gaskets compress that much. About 21 thousandths. How's that? If the gasket does compress a couple thousandths, so you're down to 17, so what? Anything under 15 is a little too tight on these. How's that? Use copper for what? Checking squish? It doesn't compress enough. It'll be very hard to check squish with. You should do a hot saw build. Matt, I am not that good. You can use an aluminum can. I mean, if you want to have 4,000 squish, use a Coke can. Or if you want to have a 4,000th gasket, use Coca-Cola can. Or whatever aluminum can is about 4,000ths. How wide is the squish on your solder? Did you get the full 9.8 millimeters? I don't know. Don't really care, but I'll look. Since you guys care about it. What happened to mine? Yeah, it marks about that. 9.4. So probably I went a little bit far in with the band, but whatever. I mean, that's pretty... I went a little too far in with the band, but not by much. Pretty good. You know, right where you have that transition, there's no, you know, tiny squish, so that's good. If it cinches down to, you know, 10 thousandths right at that spot, you know you've done something wrong with your machining. So the next thing to do is actually get numbers. Yeah, you can do that. You can put you put 4 pieces of and check squish everywhere. Again, I'm just not that exact, but you can do it if you want to be that picky. Let's check timing numbers. Matt, define any good. It turns out, like, all of these aftermarket products are just constant moving targets. That's what Walt has been famous for saying, and I agree. They really are constant moving targets. Some hold up pretty good. The plating doesn't chip. Others are junk. You know, so I think if you're fiddling around, I think you have to be more adept with chainsaws to play around with aftermarket parts. You know, does that make sense? It takes more skill probably to fiddle with the aftermarket parts. If you just want something to run, get all your OEM parts and you know, run it like you stole it. That's it. You know. I make a couple of marks on the head. These are arbitrary marks. So now what I do is I put the piston stop in an arbitrary kind of a spot. So right now that says, actually, well, hang on. Let's do this first. Visually, actually it's darn close as it sits. what you want to do is visually get the piston to top dead center. Move your wheel over there. So now it more or less aligns with top dead center. So that says, and then you have to balance it. That says 52. You go around the other side. That says 38 roughly. 52 to 38 is 14, so 7. I need to go to 45. Give it a good tighten. Oh. So now we're at 47. So now I can go a skosh more to 46. To 46. And now we're balanced left to right. So once you have it balanced, you know, and I'm not going for ultimate accuracy here, but once you have it balanced, now you can look. Now you can check your numbers. So you go and look at your exhaust, and you want to see just a crack. You know, right there is good. So my exhaust right now is from top dead center 90, 100, 105, 6, 7, 8. 108. So that doesn't need to move that much. Rule of thumb for tuning based on CC or just two-stroke in general? Always looking for same numbers. Cesar Diaz, how's it going? Welcome. Always looking for same numbers. Not always looking for same numbers. I have a formula on these that works pretty good. Generally an exhaust around 105 works fine. I like 105, 123, and like an intake of about 78. So then what I can do is put my flashlight in here and look for the transfers, which, by the way, is insanely hard to do. Right about there. ADC 90, 100, 110, 120, 125, 6, maybe 7, 127. So we're not that far off. The intake, I think, is going to be off. Let's see. Right there, intake. Intake is at 77. That's darn close. So 108-ish, 127, and 77. So we don't really need to move the intake that much, which is awesome. The transfers and the exhaust don't need to move tons either. Well, do you really need to see the transfers? The answer is you don't really need to see the transfers. Here's why. Because you're going to put a ring in here and figure out where you want the transfers anyway. So I like my transfers at 123. I mean, so the fact that I got the numbers now is effectively irrelevant. So bring this to bottom dead center, pull the head off, and we'll look at transfers first, essentially. $10 o'clock at night, Saturday night. working on a saw. So here's what you do. Take a ring, old ring, new ring, whatever. Get a ring. Bottom dead center again. Here's the ring. Stick it in the cylinder. Put it down, put your bolts back in. Chris is here. Welcome. 18 people. We're all here with me. Doing reporting tonight. Well, I'm not going to do actual reporting. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. Okay, so now, let's say I wanted 123 on the transfers. What you do is you just, from top dead center, so 90, 100, 110, 120, and this is 3. 1, 2, 3. You're going to bring it up. To there. Back it off to bottom dead center. Pull your head off. James, when you're right, you know? Okay. So now we can take this, put this somewhere else, somewhere safe. We can look in there and say, okay, how far off are the transfers? So now what you do, get a nice sharp Sharpie and go in and make your marks. So now you have the extent that you want to grind to, and you want to grind so the black is gone essentially. And you let it dry for a bit. So with the intake as it sits, I don't really want to do a whole lot to it as far as height goes. I don't need to fill it in, which is great. I do want to square it off. I can widen it and square it off a little bit though. Ultimately, I'll be doing that. I got to grind here. Actually, I can show you guys. You can use the gasket basically as a rule. There. So you can use your gasket basically as a measuring device of exactly what you want to grind away and what you don't. Fill in there. Make your Sharpie marks. now I know where I want to grind to there. What else? Believe it or not, I think that might be where we leave it for tonight. It's late. I've had a long day. Tomorrow is tools. I'll be packing up tools tomorrow. That's the hope, anyway. My machinist says they're ready, and I just got to go pick them up. So I'm going to go pick them up tomorrow. What else? So far, this is kind of interesting. This is not a whole lot different from any other build that I've done. I'm not intending to make it a whole lot different. I may stick with the regular 350 intake on this and maybe put just a bigger carburetor on it. But I can, the carburetors bolt right up. I can go right to a 350, 350 air horn still and filter. So don't change much, just change the carburetor. So yeah, Brandon, I'll be live tomorrow afternoon. Assuming, I got to go get the tools, and once I get them, I'll be live tomorrow afternoon. I don't know. Depends on how ambitious I am to work on this too. Yeah, the 359 350 build is way beyond most people's skill level. Night, Paul. Thanks for coming. It really is. It's beyond most people's pay grades. I think it's beyond mine. I could probably do it if I really put my mind to it, but there's no, I don't know. I just don't have quite that much ambition. I do enjoy fiddling around with this stuff. This is going to be kind of interesting to see if we can get this, running really good. And it certainly looks like, with enough poor work on this, that this will be a real runner. So I mean, you really could run it as it sits. It's really not that far off as it sits. Now that the squish and everything's been optimized, little pop up, you could probably run this right now, and it would be quite the little runner. But want to get that extra few percentage points out of it, I think. So anyway, hope everybody likes what I'm doing here. And no problem, Chris. You come on anytime, okay, buddy? And I'm going live, as much as I can. So feel free to show up and heckle and do whatever you want. The whole idea here is we get to share all this stuff, and I think that's really cool. So we'll keep fiddling here, and got to order some more stuff for this build, but we're definitely getting somewhere, which is awesome. So anything else? Can you rebuild a Honda GX35? No, but Ken can. I probably could, but color me not interested. If anybody does actually have an interest in buying this 350 when I'm done with it, you're more than welcome to contact me. I'll give you my email here. I don't really need the saw, so I'm just trying to give you guys some content here. So if anybody's interested, they just shoot me an email, and I can always build it up to whatever specifications. Yeah, everybody send prayers to James. I think he could use it. So I gotta run. James, you take care, buddy. Ken, Custom, Brandon, Chris, everybody else has been here. Thanks so much. Everybody have a great night, okay?